Hey everyone, I'm Tom. I'm an author and illustrator of children's books. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, and today I want to talk to you about how to draw monsters. I recently did some monsters for a book called Malamander by Thomas Taylor, and I'm going to walk you through how I drew the Malamander itself. All right? So make sure you have a piece of paper so you can follow along, find something that makes marks, and let's get started. So the first thing that I like to do with any drawing is I like to start small and I like to draw really quickly. The reason why I like to do that is because then I can make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes are actually your friend. So just start really small and just, don't even really think about what you're doing, but just try and start to picture a character in your head. And you can really do whatever you want, because the whole point of this part of a drawing is that you're trying to get your ideas out, and also you're drawing so fast that you're getting ideas down that you might not even be thinking about. It's almost like you're drawing them before they've even come to mind completely. So we're drawing a monster. So what kind of things should we be thinking about? We should be thinking about the character's pose. A character's pose can really kind of show you what kind of attitude it has, and is it something that's really fast, or is it something that's slow and creeps and that kind of thing. And monsters, scary ones tend to be really slow and creepy. So think about that. Think about what the arms should look like and what are the shoulders doing and that kind of thing. So I sometimes like to pretend like I'm the character that I'm creating, and I'll do the pose myself, and then I'll look at my body and I'll say, what am I doing with my arms? How can I take what I'm doing and then put that down on paper? All right? So once you start thinking about your pose and maybe you've got loosened up with those early drawings, another way to get ideas is to look to nature. A lot of monsters are inspired by things from the natural world. And I personally am terrified of spiders, so I could have done a monster based on a spider, but the monster in Malamander spends a lot of time in water, so I wanted to do something that was based on an animal that lives in the water. And I picked a pretty unlikely animal, I think. I picked a tadpole. Hey. A tadpole is not very scary. They're usually about this big, and if anything, they're probably more scared of you than you are of them. But what if one was 10 feet tall, covered in spikes, and it had claws and teeth? Little scary, okay? So I ran with that idea. I have a pose. I want this to be like a 10-foot tall tadpole. I want it to have spikes on its back, and I want it to have big arms and stuff like that. And I want to be scared of it. I want my drawing to scare me. And that's another thing you should be thinking about, is what scares me, and how can I capture that in a drawing? So ask yourself those questions whenever you're drawing. What does my character smell like? What does my character, what sounds does it make? Does it not make any sounds at all? Is it right behind you and you can't even tell because it's so quiet? One thing that scares me in characters that are monsters is that usually they come from the shadows, so you can't always see them coming. And I wanted my tadpole monster to be kind of like that. I wanted the Malamander to be a monster that can sneak up on you. To do that, I just kept the whole character really dark. I used shadows as, a tool to hide a lot of what the character's face looked like. I only wanted to be able to see the eyes. I wanted to add some scales, because the way Thomas describes this character, scales are part of that. It's like a reptile. With details, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to cover something with detail, because if I want this character to stay in the shadows, then I won't be able to see all that stuff. So instead, I just drew details on top. I drew scales, I drew spikes, and if you draw it in just a little bit of the character, someone looking at your drawing might be able to tell, oh, this thing has scales on it. So they'll be able to imagine that the entire body is covered with scales. You don't have to draw all of them. And I kept the body, the upper body, is kind of in shadow, but there are little details to show you that the monster is wet. Sometimes, when something's wet, you can see light bounce off of it. So there's a little light marks, little white dots and stuff like that. Don't go too crazy with your details. You don't have to add details all over. And then we had other things like spikes. Don't forget the spikes. Now, I went a little nuts with the spikes. I admit, I apologize, maybe a little overboard with the spikes, but I like spikes. Spikes are cool. And then I was like, okay, maybe that's too many spikes. So I pulled back, and again, you're always changing things. Just because you put it down on paper doesn't mean you can't erase it, doesn't mean you can't go back and try something else. And then I just focused on other little details like, how sharp the claws are. And you can start to add all of that stuff at the end of the drawing. So with any drawing, the rules are for me, start quick and loose, make mistakes, And then the closer you get to the end of the drawing, the more you can slow down. And it's okay to take a break, you know? Being patient is a good thing. Drawing takes time, and getting better at drawing takes time too, all right? So keep drawing every day. Good luck with your monster, and hopefully I'll see you here next time. Check out Malamander and Gargantis at a bookstore near you.